Thank you, Naveen. I've been called to speak because Satish Deshpande is busy with some meeting in the University Vice-Chancellor.
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Since Satish Deshpande is busy with meeting with the Vice-Chancellor of the university, all the heads have been summoned today to put in place the 4-year structure Mukul was just referring to. And Satish is there, Satish Deshpande, and he is the known honorable exception because he is the known dissenting voice or dissenting head of the department. And it tells you a lot about what has happened in their university. Erosion of the very idea of autonomy of teacher or the institution of head of the department or deans or other institutions. So I'm going to talk about this creature called the Vice-Chancellor. And I'm not going to talk about the Vice-Chancellor that we are suffering, but the institution of Vice-Chancellor, what it means. And this note has been developed by me and Satish Deshpande. So in a way, he is present here. As the dictionaries tell us, and as every educated person knows, education involves something more than mere knowledge, training or skill. The something more is hard to describe and harder still to evaluate. This is particularly true in our hyper-technological age, when there is nothing mere about the invaluable assets like knowledge, training, or skill, together summarized as competence. That is why there is great ambivalence today about whether universities and colleges should impart anything more or other than competence. More higher educational institutions either do not feel they need to or are actually unable to do so. However, even elite public universities, institutions best placed to pursue the traditional ideals of education, are floundering. Most worrisome is the fact that the logic of their institutional position seems to make vice-chancellors and other institutional heads part of the problem rather than the solution. Now, we are trying to define the vice-chancellor or vice-chancellor. Who or what is a vice-chancellor today? If this were a multiple choice examination question, the options would be easy to imagine. 1. The CEO of an academic corporation. 2. An academic or bureaucrat with political connections. 3. A person selected by accident, error, or compromise. And 4. An intellectual leader. Any school child familiar with the pieties of our examination system would easily identify 4 as the answer most likely to be correct, simply because this is how every vice-chancellor is always described after he, rarely she, attains this exalted status. But any adult minimally acquainted with our universities would equally easily recognize that though they may not be correct, the first 3 answers are most likely to be true. The sobering fact is that these options are arranged in order of their importance in Indian higher education today. Intellectual leadership is currently the most dispensable qualification for becoming a vice-chancellor. Unfortunately, this assessment is not born out of cynicism, but out of the structural features shaping higher education in the era of reforms. The astonishingly rapid expansion of this sector has changed it beyond recognition. Many more universities have been set up in the past 10 years than in the preceding 140 years since the first modern universities were established in India. Much of this growth has been in the private sector, which today accounts for the majority of enrolled students and about 2/3 of the institutions. For obvious reasons, the technical professional fields have expanded the most, and well over 75% of such institutions are private. That is why the corporate manager is the most common type of vice-chancellor or institution head today. This type also has its public sector variant, the academic entrepreneur, who invests in a VC share, now an option in some states where fully marketized VC posts are available to the highest bidder without regard to caste, party, creed, or credentials. Whether private or public, commercially minded institutions will not be interested in education as such. Most state-level institutions, though not commercial in this sense, are so hamstrung by political, financial, and caste constraints that they and their vice-chancellors do not have any space to nurture education. Now we come to the university. As Mukul told you, the teachers and the administrative team of the University of Delhi are in a standoff for the last 2 years over who has the right to define and design the curriculum direction on which the university should move. It has often been said that the status quo teaching committee of the university is impeding the move of a dynamic vice-chancellor. After all, every vice-chancellor comes with a dream and has only 5 years to realize it. How fair it is to ask him to go through the long, winding, grievously slow process of consulting the large mass of reluctant faculty of the university and wait for transformation to happen. But as another vice-chancellor told me, however painful and slow it might be, the mettle of the leadership is tested in its ability to convert its individual dream into a collective one. Otherwise, it might turn into a nightmare for the institution. Is that what is happening with Delhi University today? The recent happenings at Delhi University pose questions which may have larger implications for the university system of India. The core issue is that of autonomy. And Sanjay was talking about this autonomy. Autonomy of Vice-Chancellor vis-a-vis the autonomy of the teachers. Do they clash? But before asking this question, we should ask whether a Vice-Chancellor has sufficient autonomy to work. It can be said confidently that as compared to the Vice-Chancellors of the state universities, the Vice-Chancellors of the central universities enjoy a high degree of autonomy. At the time of writing these lines, the media in Kerala is speculating on the names of people who are to fill the vacant posts of the Vice-Chancellors there. It is an open secret that these would be political appointments influenced by extra academic reasons like caste or political affiliation. We know that this is not unique to Kerala. Vice-Chancellors appointed to such a process cannot be expected to act independently. But in the case of central universities, the Vice-Chancellors are appointed through a peer-led process, generally free of political interference, and the acts of these universities ensure that their survival is not at the pleasure and mercy of the political power of the day. They might feel constrained by the social or political realities around them, but they cannot be forced to implement an agenda set by some extraneous agency, be it the government or even a funding body like the University Grants Commission. It is also interesting that they are accountable to nobody. Their employer, the President of India, maintains a majestic distance with the university he is supposed to be heading. They are like those honorifics. They are like those honorifics the present president has rightly decided to shed. Indian central universities do have executive committees and academic councils, but their very composition allows the vice-chancellors to have their way. They are mostly filled by deans and heads of the constituent units of the university. Ideally, they should be the bridges between the vice-chancellor and the faculty. and their students, and should be able to give frank and sincere advice to the Vice-Chancellor. Unfortunately, without any financial or administrative power and autonomy in the matters of appointment of faculty, they do not feel confident to take an independent view. They therefore, rather than acting as the representative of their departments or institutions on these bodies, start behaving like Vice-Chancellors, spokespersons before their faculty. There are some elected representatives on these bodies, but they are tolerated as a necessary evil, and although allowed to speak, are seldom heard. They are represented therefore to the outside world as spoilers and grumblers who are out to disturb the seamless narrative of reform that the Vice-Chancellor is trying to weave for the good of university and society at large. Is it interesting that unlike the presidents of the American universities, rarely does a Vice-Chancellor of an Indian university feel a need to write and present his vision and strategy plan before the apex bodies of the university and its faculty at the time of her inauguration. They also do not go for an evidence-based assessment and evaluation of the state of universities before going on for their reform drive. It does not surprise us that nearly all Vice-Chancellors aspire to be remembered as reformers, which means that they sincerely feel that they are here on a mission. It would also explain that their impatience with any criticism to their actions at the belief that patients should not be allowed to meddle with the course of their treatment. They feel that it is the duty of reformers to walk them through this painful process, which in the end would only restore health to them. Our Vice-Chancellors rarely take pain to present a holistic description of the weaknesses and strength of the academic life of the university and its governance structure. In India, Vice-Chancellors are also not burdened with the task of raising resources for the university like their American counterparts or heads of Indian institutes of management here in India, and neither judged by their ability to attract the best minds active elsewhere to their departments and centers. Is it not surprising that we have never heard a Vice-Chancellor in our country taking pride in the names he or she was able to add to the existing list of faculty? Nor do our Vice-Chancellor ever lose sleep after the departure of a good mind from his university. How else do they empower and add value to the academic life of the university? The autonomy that the Vice-Chancellors enjoy vis-a-vis the political powers of the day do not get devolved to the deans and faculty. All decision-making powers rest with the Vice-Chancellor and a small team he has chosen for himself, which again keeps looking to him for decisions. Heads of departments and deans are seen frustratingly waiting for months at the door of the Vice-Chancellor for his sanction for a paltry sum of 1 lakh or 2 lakh rupees. Recently, 2 lakh rupees made news, and all newspapers thought it fit to publish this news, I think, for consecutive 7 days. So 2 lakh rupees. Or a sound system for classrooms or higher secretariat help even on contractual basis. Even the power to utilize the money faculty brings to the university through her own efforts does not lie with her. In such a situation, one can understand the insecurity of a dean or a head or even a professor. The job of a Vice-Chancellor is much bigger than the day-to-day administration of the university. He is the face of the university before industry, political powers, judiciary, and other institutions and society large. He is also expected to speak on behalf of the constituents of the university from a position of strength he draws from their individual autonomy. But since our Vice-Chancellors are not expected either to raise resources or to create conditions to attract good faculty, they think that apart from day-to-day administration, curriculum reform is their main job, which in fact is entirely the domain of the faculty. Naturally, faculty resents this intrusion and it leads to a clash which turns into a permanent war. While thinking about the dynamics of the relationship between the faculty and the Vice-Chancellor in an Indian university, it would be educative to look to a university in a faraway land. Last year, Professor Teresa Sullivan, President of the University of Virginia for 2 years, resigned from her post, refusing to go to the demands of the governing board of the university to go for a dynamic transformation in curricular areas and other structures to keep pace with the fast changing outside market and world. She felt that as a leader, it was her duty to stand by her faculty, protect the culture of the university, and resist interference of the outside forces. One should note that the faculty with stagnant wages was not happy with her. But after her forced ouster, the same faculty and student community of the university rose as one, demanding her restoration. The board had to relent, and Professor Suleiman was reinstated. Why cannot it ever happen in an Indian university? Thank you.